This episode of the My Latin Life podcast is brought to you by Language Blend, the new best way to learn Spanish. Language Blend focuses on what you actually need to live and get by abroad with daily one-on-one lessons, a dedicated texting partner. It's like living in a Spanish-speaking country without ever leaving home. Go to languageblend.com for more information. Welcome back to another episode of the My Latin Life podcast. Since 2014, My Latin Life has been your trusted guide to traveling and living in Latin America. My guest today is a repeat guest, Kyle Trouble, aka Kyle Mao. Kyle, how's it going?
Good, man. Thanks for having me back again. I appreciate it.
Now, it's hard to do the intro because you've undergone a bit of rebranding. But Kyle here is a previous podcast guest. As I mentioned, he was episode 24 was the first appearance. And he's the founder of HireUA as well as Selo Olive, a olive oil company and a sort of a VA talent outsourcing virtual assistant company as well. Longtime businessman. Kyle, how's it going?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on. As you said, I kind of went through a rebrand recently. I decided to drop the whole Kyle Trouble moniker that I'd been using for nearly a decade online and use my real name. So thanks for having me back to talk about it again.
Yeah, absolutely. It must have been quite the decision.
I think it's kind of one of those things just in life. Like I'd kind of gotten over, didn't have anything else to say about dating. Nothing really to say about travel at this point either. Obviously, I've been based out in Eastern Europe since 2016 and just kind of ready to move on with the next phase of my life. I became a father last year as well. And kind of just like, okay, I run a couple pretty legit businesses now and people are starting to ask some questions like, what exactly is that really your last name? So it made sense to kind of change things up a little bit.
Nice. Trying to go up market.
Yeah, I guess so. A little more, a little less niche, a little more upmarket, like you said, and not. I certainly have no regrets about anything I ever wrote on the internet, and don't really plan on deleting anything, to be honest. But I would say, that part of my life is over. So it's time just to start anew, so to speak.
It's good. I think there's value in just doing something different sometimes, mixing it up.
Yeah, and sometimes you just kind of have to cut that cord to the past. I think that makes it a little bit just a fresh start in a way, instead of just always kind of holding on to what was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's a decision that many creators out there battle with all the time. Obviously, My Latin Life is a semi-anonymous thing. Pretty comfortable with that setup, but I think a lot of people battle with it that are semi-anonymous or their personality brands, and maybe they're trying to expand or whatever it is. And even if you remember, if you know Rogue Wealth on Twitter,
Mm-hmm.
we had an episode with Rogue Wealth. He lives in Venezuela, cool guy, and he was kind of like on the verge of and he was kind of 1 foot in telling people his real name, 1 foot just being Rogue Wealth. So I think people battle with it a lot. I'm not sure if you have any thoughts or theories on one versus the other, or maybe it's a false
Well,
dichotomy.
when I first became a blogger, this was back in 2016. I went all in on what at the time was a dating blog. And, I had my name out there just as Kyle Trouble. And then when I quit the corporate job, I kind of wanted to burn the ship, so to speak. I wanted to make sure I didn't have a safety net to go back to. So I put my photo out there at that point, and attached
Mm.
everything to it. So that was kind of my way of doing it. Was it the smartest thing in hindsight? Maybe, maybe not. Certainly, there's advantages to being totally anonymous that I've given up, but I think for the most part, it depends what you want and how comfortable you are with things. But I think the one thing that I always had in the back of my mind was like, someone's going to find out about this. Someone who I don't want to know is going to find this. And then when you just say, I'm going to put it out there, you're kind of just owning it at that point. And you're saying, this is who I am. This is what I believe. This is what I've written. This is what I published, whatever it might be. And that's a little easier because that burden is then lifted from you instead of always worrying about, oh gosh, is this, crazy person who's, blowing up my mentions and trolling me, trying to find out who I am. You're just free of that. You're like, yep, it's all out there. So I think in some ways it's a little easier just to kind of relieve yourself of that burden.
Makes sense. Did you have any crazy situations back in the day, like people trying to figure out who you were and stuff?
I was just in Warsaw, Poland with my company. We had a team meeting with 10 of us, and at the club, someone came up to me and was like, "You're Kyle Trouble. You write the dating blog." And of course, I'm there, with my whole Ukrainian staff. We've got 8 girls with us there. And I'm like, "Yep." And of course, the whole team's like looking at me like, "Wow, you're." You were actually kind of famous at one point. I'm like, yeah, I guess in some certain circles I was. So, no, nothing ever really crazy. I had a few people that tried to like dox my wife at one point over some tweet I made about like women should be staying at home and cooking lasagna or something of the sort. But other than that, haven't had too many issues. Mostly good stuff. People stopping me on the street and recognizing me and wanting to have a beer. So that's always cool.
Sweet. So you're from California originally, if I remember
Yep.
correctly.
Yep.
Reminding the audience as well, and you now spend most of your time in Eastern Europe.
Yeah, so I moved out in 2016. I was really just kind of tired of working the corporate gig, wanted to do something different. So I bought a one-way flight out to Poland and I was there for a while. I lived in the Czech Republic for a year and a half and then ultimately settled down in Kyiv, Ukraine since 2018. I bought some properties there and I was, of course, there when the war with Russia actually kicked off in February 2022. And now I've kind of relocated back to Poland after a year in the United States post-war. So that's kind of my travel life stories in a nutshell there.
Because as we mentioned, you got the two businesses, in the one in Ukraine and then one in Croatia, right?
Correct. Yeah, all oil companies in Croatia.
In Croatia, you mentioned Czech Republic for a while, now Poland. That's a good mixed bag of Eastern Europe there.
Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to travel around quite a bit. I think Ukraine was always my favorite, and Poland was always like a top two as well. So it's kind of just been the places that I've settled into. But I quite enjoy life out here. I'm not a fan of the weather, which is kind of the one bummer at times, but it's just my gig. It's where I feel comfortable. It's the culture, the people, everything is, just in line with who I am. So that's kind of why I've settled out here and I was kind of one of those people who's like, oh, like coincidentally Latin America was never really my cup of tea that I ever really wanted to settle down into, neither was
hmm
Asia. So I just kind of knew from the start like this is where home should be for me.
I have this theory that nomads from California and the southern United States prefer Eastern Europe, and nomads from the northern, northeastern United States and Canada prefer Latin America
Interesting. Just the
because
weather?
it's like you like what's different. Like for someone from New York or Boston or Maine, like Eastern Europe, it's like okay, it's the same weather
Mhm.
except everything's weird. You know what I mean? Whereas like I feel like we want what's different. That's my theory.
That's actually a pretty fair theory because I think I went to college in San Diego, which probably has maybe the best weather of anywhere in the world, to be honest. It's 70, 80 degrees basically year round. You can wear shorts or pants any day of the year. And like, yeah, Latin America to me is like, it's hot. I don't like hot weather. So it's one of those things that I've just never really felt as connected to that region. You're right. And I went straight to the cold and the gray and the snow. So it does make sense.
Random question: do you remember the guy Maverick Traveler? And do you know what happened to him? Because every once in a while, someone asks me what happened to Maverick Traveler, and I feel like you might know.
I don't know. I met him in Ukraine once, and then I was walking by him one day. I wanna say this is probably, like, 2021, and I walked by him, and he was with a girl, and I waved, and he didn't really acknowledge me, and I never saw him or heard from him again, to be honest. Is his site gone now?
I think the site's gone. Yeah.
The site's gone? Oh, wow. No, I don't know, man.
Wow.
Yeah, the site's totally
Maybe that's
gone.
the last known sighting. The Wave 2021.
Maybe. Well, his site now is just basically nothing but dating articles. It looks like he sold it. Yeah, I have no idea what happened to him, man.
True. Well, I think that's a good connect the dots for people who enjoy the lore of the old blogging days.
Yeah, I
Good
miss those
little
days, man.
good little connect.
Yeah, I
Uh,
hope I think he has dual citizenship, if I'm not mistaken. He had both an American and a Ukrainian passport, so he shouldn't be stuck in Ukraine. So I would
Right, because
imagine he's out,
he
but
was of Eastern Ukrainian ancestry
yeah, he
or
was born
Eastern
in
European, sorry.
Odessa, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah.
That's a good one. Okay, well, we can keep moving. If you have any good old lore stories, I feel like that's always good content. But maybe maybe what do you think would be a good next topic? Maybe we could talk about the businesses or life in Eastern Europe.
Yeah, let's go with life in Eastern Europe. We're just talking about that. What would you like to know?
Aye, Poland. Poland's an interesting choice, I feel. Personally, maybe between the four that you had, and maybe I'd do Croatia just to be kind of on the Mediterranean and in the water and stuff. But
So I think, I mean, have you I think there's a big misconception sometimes about Europe and the Mediterranean. So basically, like oftentimes what that means is that in the summer it's scorching hot and it's over flooded with tourists. And honestly, the winters and the fall and sometimes the spring is a slog. Like it's cold, it's rainy, it's wet. It is not like some great enjoyable experience all year. That's just my opinion, but like if anyone thinks they're gonna go to Europe and, like, get the same beach quality for the most part that they would get in a place like, say, Mexico, like, it's just not going to happen. And they become so overrun with tourists, it takes a lot of the enjoyment out. So, that's my personal take on that. Whereas, like, up in, like, Poland, it's much more moderate weather in the summer. You know, I could say we're getting to highs of, maybe 35 Celsius, like 90 degrees. It cools off, it's pleasant in the evening. And then, of course, the spring and the fall, of course, we have rainy, sloggy days and we get snow at points. But to me, those beach towns in Europe have never had a huge appeal. And I just find them to be such a tourist trap and just really not all that, to be honest.
Mhm. What do you like about Poland?
I like coming from Ukraine. So Ukraine was definitely, a step behind as far as development, as far as just many things. And I think Poland is a nice middle ground to step up from that. At the same time, they are pretty traditional. They're not bending the knee to everything that the EU may want them to do. They're definitely maintaining an identity and a culture. So I appreciate that certainly. Very safe, very just pleasant overall, good demeanor of the people, and it's pretty modern. I would say like it's you can get pretty much anything you need. Deliveries are fast, good restaurants, and just the overall vibe of the whole country is just very good.
Yeah, I've heard good things. Pretty safe, pretty cheap, good partying, beautiful towns. I heard like every little 5 and 10,000 person town in Poland is like really punching above its weight class in terms of just cool architecture and architecture setup stuff like that.
Every pretty much all of them have some nice little square, which is always just very classical, very European, just very enjoyable simply to walk around and enjoy a nice summer evening. Pretty much every town in Poland that I've ever been to has had that, and it's very true. It's very nice.
Refilling my tea, and then so where in Poland are you living? Are you divulging that?
I'm living in Wrocław, which is a smaller city on the western side.
Whoa. Okay. Tell us about this. I'm gonna have to look this up on Google Maps just to keep up here. I'm not a Poland expert. Rezesau.
R-
Is that the one?
no, Wrocław, spelled
Wrocław.
WRO claw, row claws, how it sounds when you spell it out.
Rock Rocklaw.
There you go, close enough.
Okay.
I
Okay.
may be
Well,
saying it wrong
Polish
too, to be clear.
pronunciation aside.
I may be saying it completely wrong.
Pretty cool, man. Pretty cool. And bring us through like a day in the life. What's life in Poland like for a California expat?
So, I mean, I'm pretty busy these days. Like the HireUA company has grown rapidly in the last year, almost 10 times. Like we went from having two people to having 15 people on staff. We all just met up in person in Warsaw, the capital. So I start my days pretty early. I get out of bed usually about 5:45, try to go for a little walk, and then I do all the deep and focus work in the morning, hit the gym around 11 o'clock or so, and then in the afternoon I take all my meetings. So basically my assistant sets everything up, brings everybody's questions that they may have. I answer to all my employees with what they need, and then I take whatever calls are needed. I don't take many sales calls anymore. I have a team that does that, but I take some
Mhm.
sales calls occasionally, talk to clients, and do other stuff to drive the growth of the business. And then I try to be done by 4 or 5 most days, and spend some time with baby, and hang out with some friends in the evening when it's nice, and that's pretty much what my days look like now. A little quieter than they used to be, certainly when I was running a dating blog, for sure quieter and not probably maybe even boring, you could say. But I guess I'm probably at that stage of life that I certainly don't wouldn't change anything.
I mean, sounds pretty ideal to me. You're making money online. You're strolling through small European plazas, going to
Yeah, it
buy
could be a
some
lot worse.
pastries. Do you eat bread, or are you like crazy like, optimized?
I try not to touch carbs before dinner. I find every time I have my lunch, I get tired and I don't want to work in the afternoon. So I tend to not touch any carbs at lunchtime. And then for dinner, I'll have whatever.
I feel like that's the problem with Europe is I just want to.
Have a
I just
baguette and a
yeah
croissant.
yeah. There's just on every corner there's like a sick place with like a croissant thing, and I'm like, ooh, I need that.
Yeah, when you live in it though, it's a little bit different. Like you don't have that desire. If you're a tourist, for sure, every day you want to go out and try something new. But if you're living here, it's like, okay, that's there anytime. I can get it whenever I want. So it's not one of those things you always, want to be doing that.
And tell us about the growth of the business. So HireUA is the
Yeah.
business. Tell us about this.
Yeah, so it was a recruiting agency. Basically, we are really disrupting the traditional outsourcing markets from India and the Philippines, and the goal is basically to replace, those traditional places with Ukrainian talent. And the people out there are extremely good, and we're in a situation now, obviously, with the war going on, that a lot of them are looking for good opportunities to work online and make money online. Like everyone I think that's listening to this podcast probably is aspiring to or does already.
Hmm.
So that's basically. Was able to really I rebranded it last year. I split off with a business partner and just went all in on it because I knew it had that potential. And since then, we basically, 10x'd and grown rapidly, and the growth does not seem to be slowing down. So it's been really cool. Probably the most rewarding business I've done because we've been able to, one, help a lot of people in Ukraine, obviously, where I was living. And I have my opinions about the war, but the people are the innocent ones that are just, getting the shit for all the stuff the politicians are doing. And then on top of that, we get to help Western businesses who, since COVID, have pretty much had a hard time hiring, where minimum
Hmm.
wage goes up all the time, where people are just so entitled with everything that they want to do. So it's been really cool to say, hey, we get to help a good person who needs it get a good job, and we get to help a business owner who's also trying to make it get a good person and get the help that they need without having to deal with all of the nonsense of hiring somebody from the States.
Hmm. Hmm. And do you find the businesses are in particular industries, or do you train for specific tasks?
We've done pretty much, I mean, a huge variety of stuff. Our bread and butter is definitely like agencies of various types, whether that be marketing, copywriting, email marketing, it just pretty much anything. But we've also worked with IT companies. We've done architect placements. So we put people into architect firms. We've done some AI stuff. So we're pretty multifaceted and can find pretty much anyone for any position. But I would say definitely the agency model is kind of our bread and butter at the moment.
Okay. And do you have a pitch for the agencies specifically about how they can, make more money and everything by working with you guys?
Well, the ultimate goal that I think a lot of small business owners end up in is that they end up in this cycle of just working nonstop, and they work hard because that's what it takes to get the business off the ground. But eventually, they need to start taking some of that time back and working a little bit smarter. But that's where it's very difficult for a business owner to start being able to trust somebody to take tasks off their plate and to put somebody else into their business, which is that's their baby that they built, right? So
Right.
it's very difficult for them to do that. And I think there is a huge stigma, and it's not undeserved with a lot of the traditional outsourcing hubs like the Philippines, like India, because people are so fed up of, every time they call their bank, they it takes them an hour to make the most simple request because of the low quality of caliber that's sitting in that call center on the other side of the world. So we've found that the Ukrainians are really sharp. They're good at solving their own problems. They think independently. So it is a much different mindset, much different offer than the traditional like outsourcing market. So our pitch is really just like we can put someone who's a lot better than what you've used before overseas, and they're going to be like 80% cheaper than hiring in the States. And it's just the truth. So it's the pitch really just kind of speaks for itself.
Yeah, yeah, very cool. And guys, by the way, if you do reach out to Kyle and mention My Latin Life, you're going to be treated well. So I highly suggest you get in contact with this company and take your agency to the next level.
Yep. Just put his name in the booking form. We'll take care of the rest. And that's the thing too. It's like you don't after the sales process, you're only going to work with Ukrainians, really. I'm not very involved in the fulfillment anymore because I've been able to build it all out. So my team is phenomenal and they handle just every little detail of all of our clients, which is really cool to see.
Right? They try and get in contact with you, and it's like no, it's all been automated.
They handle a lot, man. They're really good.
Hey guys, quick break from the episode to tell you about Bitrefill. Bitrefill allows you to shop online and in person without banks, converting your crypto directly into merchant balance. We're talking gift cards to Nike, Amazon, Apple, Airbnb, Hotels.com, and many more, all paid for with crypto. Bitrefill offers more than 10,000 gift card options in 180 countries, including the USA, Canada, all across Latin America, including Brazil, Colombia, Mexico, Argentina, El Salvador, and many more. You can also apply the code MyLatinLife at checkout to get 10% back on your first purchase. Go to bitrefill.com for more information. I have a random question about payments for people from the Ukraine. Where do you pay them out to? Is it to the Ukraine or to somewhere in Europe? You know what I mean?
It varies from candidate to candidate, man, because they've just moved all over the place. So this is like the one part of the business I haven't been able to totally outsource. I got myself out of probably 90% of the work, but yeah, like making those payments sometimes is a real pain in the ass because they're just all over the place, different currencies. It sucks, but it's just part of it. Obviously, that's part of what we do is make sure the candidates are well taken care of and make sure that they're getting what they need. And given the circumstances, it is what it is.
Hmm. And so, do you have team members kind of like where are they based? Kind of crazy because I imagine people went everywhere, right? Georgia, Kazakhstan, Poland, everywhere.
Yeah, off the top of my head, I've got my executive assistant lives in Poland. My social media manager lives in Poland. I've got two team members that live in the Netherlands, one in Switzerland, a couple in Spain, a couple still in Ukraine. It's just all over the place. There's really no other way around that. People kind of just went where they knew somebody or where they maybe had family already. So everyone kind of just migrated where it made sense to them. And that's kind of just how it's ended up. And, not dissimilar to myself and my family, we went back to the United States for a year and then moved out to Poland. So you kind of just people, go through a situation like that and you just figure it out.
And for you, that was quite a situation where I think you had a couple options, and you even reached out to me, I think, a couple times, asking a bit about Latin America, or just you weren't sure what to do next when you were taking that year off in California, or just assessing options.
Yeah, we just decided to go home, to where my family was just to be close because my wife was pregnant at the time. So we're like, okay, like, when this kid comes, we're gonna want to have some help, have some people close by. And then, unfortunately, like 3 weeks after we had relocated to California, my mom got diagnosed with cancer. So it made sense, obviously, just to stay in the area for the time being at that point. So that was kind of what happened. But yeah, it was certainly not a great experience having to uproot everything, with pretty much very little warning and just having to leave everything behind. But, it's one of those stories that it's interesting to tell for sure. I don't wish it upon anybody, but it certainly, yeah, makes you a stronger person. That's for sure.
Do you think your background as a nomad contributed to um, things going smoother than they would have otherwise? Because maybe you were already like, oh yeah, multiple jurisdictions, bank accounts, all this stuff.
You mean like in the very moment when the war kicked off and it was like, oh shit, we got to get out of here? Or you mean just kind of the fallout of needing to relocate?
Yeah, I guess a bit of both. I mean, that was definitely the original event, and then in the wake after that.
Yeah, I mean, the original event, there's nothing that anything will prepare you for something like that, where you're just like, I have to, basically just get the hell out of this country. Now, no amount of being nomadic or anything of the sort would help with that situation. That was just pure adrenaline. Like I didn't sleep for 3 days. Um, Nothing with my background with that would have helped and all. So after that, I would say, when we decided to end up going to Poland early this year, obviously easy to start over again. It's like, oh, okay, we're just moving to another country. I've already done this a half a dozen times. So like, of course, yeah, now I'm taking a kid and a dog, and it's a little bit different. It's a little bit more complex. It's certainly more difficult, but it's something that we can do. So I think the fallout from it, yeah, having moved around, having started over in a few places, knowing that I'm able to go into a new city, a new country, and able to figure that kind of stuff out certainly makes it easier.
I could just imagine you're like, yeah, digital nomad stuff didn't help at all. It's like, oh yeah, I got my microfiber towel. I got my
Yeah, no.
like what are some digital nomad? I got my noise canceling headphones.
Yeah, I don't think any of that did any good, to be frank.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I feel like it could in some way if you had like multiple driver's licenses, some things like that, or just being used to getting up and packing and moving and traveling a little bit more than the average person who, I mean, it's pretty stressful to pack a suitcase sometimes.
Yeah, that was one of those things though, you just throw whatever the necessities are in. Like, there's no planning. It's like, "Oh, there's air raid sirens going off, like, we have to leave," and then it's like, "Oh, there's, stuff exploding out of the sky." It's nothing. There's nothing that can compare it to, really, for sure.
Shit is crazy. And then so you move to the country next door.
Yeah, but yeah, I know. If it goes further, then we will, yeah, who knows what state the world's gonna be in at that point if that's the case, but I think for now we're fine here. Could be famous last words. That's kind of the risk I've accepted for the time being. I think given what's happened over the last year or so in the war, it doesn't seem like anything is this is just gonna be another one of those forever
It's all right.
wars that
You don't
yeah.
need to make a prediction. It's day to day, I guess. But you're just a committed Europe guy now. I feel like you're all about the Europe, man.
I am, and it's just difficult once you start having a family and stuff. Like, you've kind of got to think of them, and you've got to think about where the language skills lie. It's like it would not be necessarily a piece of cake to just go to Mexico and resettle with a family.
It's
There's a
true.
big gap between doing that in Poland for me or doing that in Mexico. But if you flip it around and I went to Mexico and had a Mexican child with a Mexican wife, like that would be uprooting. Oh, let's go to Poland. And, she'd probably look at me like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, no way. So a lot of that,
Yeah, it's
and,
true.
but it's
It's
funny
crazy how
after,
life shakes out.
it is. After the we left though, the war, and I was still, like, really into the news. I was like, "Oh god, the world's gonna end." I told her, I was like, "I think we should just go to Paraguay or Uruguay and live in the countryside and, like, on a ranch with barely any internet." I'm like, "We should just go move out there." And I thought about it a few times, and then I kinda was like, "Okay, maybe this is a emotional reaction after what just happened," but it crossed my mind.
That's mad funny. That makes me laugh. Because I mean, that's how they tout it, and I feel like it's not good marketing for Uruguay either. It's like best place if nuclear war. It's like I feel like there's like I don't know. I don't know. I
That's
don't know if
not a
there's a
good
bit.
selling point, man.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's like Uruguay. I don't know. But you found solace in Poland. It's good. I mean, all your are random question. Are all your clients for the most part the businesses? Is it American businesses or European businesses?
I would say 90% American, and then the rest would be like UK or
It's
Canadian.
interesting because you're basically bridging the gap between American businesses and European tech talent.
Yeah, but it's a lot more than tech talent. I mean, we do tech, but yeah, we are basically that bridge between them for sure.
Pretty cool. And then your whole team is European, and you're just like the one American guy that just knows the American system and how to sell to Americans and like makes the whole operation work.
Yeah, the sales team is also American because we don't place sales positions. I think it's
Uh,
very, very difficult for foreigners to do a closing type of role. So we don't do that. So the sales team is American. And then everyone else, though, on the fulfillment and marketing side is all Ukrainian. So, like I said, I put the money where the mouth is because they do a really good job.
yeah, yeah, that's super cool. Well, who's like your ideal client for this? Because I think this is a thing that a lot of businesses need, but they don't know they need.
Ideal client. So here's the thing. It's one of those situations where, like, when people are coaching others how to make money online, it's a lot harder to take someone from 0 to $1,000 than it is to take someone from, say, $10,000 to $100,000. So, as much as people who are beginning their business, and let's say they're making 5, 10K a month, they're actually not our ideal client. We will turn them away in a lot of cases because we prefer established businesses with processes who have had hiring success before. We're starting to build out some offers for newer businesses where we're going to come in and we're going to like look at your business. We're going to audit the founder's time. We're going to build out your processes, your procedures, and then actually integrate somebody into your business. But overall, it's a lot easier to have success and it's a lot easier to sell to people who are already making money and already successful. And this is true in almost any industry. It's not just like my company, it's almost anywhere. It's easier to sell with people who already have money.
Hmm. Definitely makes sense. And how do you kind of evaluate of people that are making money? Like what,
I
what a
just
good
ask them.
candidate is? Yeah.
I just ask them, yeah, on the sales call, I just say, how much money are you making? And a lot of times, like, people will waffle about it. They'll say, like, oh, I made 30K. And I say, how much did you make last month? And they're like, oh, eight. Like, when did you make 30K? Like 9 months ago. I'm like, so you made 7K last month. They're like, yeah. I'm like, what did you make the month before that? Oh, eight. So you really have to sometimes grill into people on like a sales call and figure out what they're telling the truth about. And then, of course, you also just ask, like, how many clients do you have? How many clients is this revenue spread across? Because the last case we want is where somebody's making like 10K a month, but it's across two clients and they lose one client. The first thing they're going to do is obviously cut one of our people. So we try to avoid that situation when we can.
Hmm. What do you do about clashes in company culture?
Well, there's always going to be a gap, obviously, between an American and a Westerner. So we try to basically screen and filter for people who already have Western business experience, ideally strong levels of English, and who kind of just get it. And my team is basically trained to look out for those kind of attributes in people. And then, of course, we also, try to bridge that gap with the language and the culture. There's many cases where somebody simply getting on a call with one of my team members and having their candidate speak to one of my team members in Ukrainian can clear up what was a major issue. And it's like, oh, it's just a very simple misunderstanding. That some simple translation, someone else kind of having some context can help alleviate. So that's kind of what we do. But at the end of the day, it is still a cultural gap. And I think what a lot of founders and business owners struggle with is there's also going to be a gap between your employee and you. So, like, no one's ever going to replace you. It's unlikely that you can ever hire somebody to do a job as good as you. The goal should be to get someone to do 80% as good as you because then you get all the time back. So even if
Hmm.
they're not as good, you make that trade every time, because a lot of people don't have any concept of how much money they're actually worth. Like, what is their hourly rate? You have people that are making $1 million in their business who are still doing tasks that they can outsource for $10 an hour, which is just silly.
Hmm. No, it definitely makes sense. I think, like you said, it's it's tough when it's a your baby. It's hard to give up the reins sometimes,
Mhm.
or maybe people just think that certain tasks aren't automatable, and maybe are do you try to show people a path towards automating things that they didn't realize were outsourced and automatable?
I mean, honestly, I say if you can automate it before you delegate it, like, software is more reliable than humans, no matter what human it is.
Hmm.
So I think it definitely, if there's something that can be automated, it makes sense to do that. But it really just depends, like, on the business. It's everything's going to be very specific.
Hmm. Do you have any good stories about culture clash?
Not really that I should share. Client candidates, no, I can't go into all that.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense. Hey everybody, hey everybody. Quick break from the podcast to tell you about Language Blend, the best new way to learn Spanish. Language Blend was co-founded by Jake Nomada, friend of the podcast, decade of experience in Latin America, and Jake and his team, they put everything into this program that they wish they had in terms of how to level up quickly with your Spanish language skills. Because the faster that you can get conversationally fluent in Spanish, the better the experience that you're going to have in Latin America. So go to languageblend.com for more information. I have a random question for you. Well, you
Fire.
have the gold check on Twitter.
I
How did you
do.
get that? What's that about? Not too many people have that these
That
days.
is for spending $1,000 a month or more on Twitter ads.
Really?
Yep. But
And and it's
dude, Twitter
also for
ads,
organizations?
dude, there's so much keeps changing. No, I think you can pay to verify your org,
Right.
and that's also $1,000 a month. And then you get your company's icon with a blue check,
Got it.
I think.
So
Dude,
yours is
so
like it's
much
like a
has
big
changed.
spender check.
Yeah, I'm a baller. That's what it is. It's the
Cuz
baller check.
cuz between the baller check, the yellow check, gold check and the square profile photo that you're rocking, you're definitely trying to stand out.
Honestly, man, the ads have gotten like Twitter's so whack right now. It really is. Like the ads were doing so well, and now it's just like sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. It's maddening to track. Like I don't. I'd be curious your thoughts on this too. Like where the fuck is Twitter going? Like truly, what is this rebrand? What is the purpose? Maybe there's something behind it all, but I don't see it to be honest.
I've heard you mention, and this is something I wanted to bring up with you, is that your reach, you feel like your reach is kind of diminished because you have just about 26,000 followers, and sometimes you don't get too much engagement, or I don't see your stuff sometimes. And I've seen you do like testing tweets, and it it's crazy. I mean, how they can sort of silo you.
Yeah, I think I mean, my gut feeling at first was like I was pretty political about all the COVID stuff, and I feel like my account definitely got neutered at some point there. And then I kind of went through a rebrand of talking about dating and moving abroad, those kind of things, to what I'm talking about now, which is a lot drier. You know, it's hiring, outsourcing, operations systems. At the same time, it is so atrociously bad now. I've had multiple people look at it. No one's really been able to figure it out. So it's just one of those things. We still book a lot of calls from Twitter, so I keep doing it. But it certainly is maddening sometimes when you're like, "Oh, I have 26,000 followers, and the algorithm showed this to like 100 of them." It's like, what is going on? But I think one of those things is that a lot of people on Twitter are just in engagement groups. Like everyone who pitches ghostwriting and all the other services, like they're putting you in groups of people that they pay to engage with your stuff. And that's really how you grow now is pretty much just it's pay for play.
I've never once paid for a retweet or been part of like an engagement group.
That's good. Yeah, and yours looks good, man. Yeah, you have some engagement, so good for you.
Even still, I feel that sometimes I am who built like a completely organic audience. Sometimes I still feel like I'm getting the same level of activity on a given tweet that I was getting maybe like 6 months ago or a year ago when I had less than 10,000 followers.
See, that's just it, man. And if you want to, like, I don't know, rewind all the way back to say like 2018, like stuff would just pop all the time. You could say anything remotely controversial and you would be flying. And now it's just like nobody sees it.
I think it's just maybe that your follower count matters a little less or something because yeah, I mean even smaller accounts in my niche talking about, sovereignty and internationalization stuff, people with only like 3-4 thousand followers will say like the exact same thing I'm saying, and sometimes theirs will just blow up and get 20 retweets and 100 plus
You have
likes
to
and all that
look at
stuff. It's weird.
the who retweeted it though, because if you look at it, it's really easy to see if it's been paid.
Yeah, yeah, I suppose.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I think it's all about the algo now. You want to be on that stupid like for you page, and that's pretty much it. You want like the whole goal is like get enough engagement that you get put on that page. That's like the only goal.
Are you for you or are you following?
I always change it to following, but it always changes it back. A day later, I'm always back to like, oh, this is what we think you should see. Like, nah, forget that.
Apparently I'm unfollowing. I think if they haven't changed it, I think it's been following since for months. I haven't really thought about it till now.
You gotta check. Like, every
Yeah.
time you open it up on your phone, a lot of times it'll just switch it back.
Yeah. And this podcast might at some point be outdated, but what we're talking about is on Twitter, how there are for you and following tabs in terms of the timeline. So the for you probably has more, non people you don't follow, obviously, that they're just suggesting content and memes and stuff. Um, yeah, I think that's how it was kind of on Instagram too. You know what I mean? The only way to grow is if you show up in that discover section.
Pretty much. It's all about the algo, man. It's all about what the algorithm thinks that people should see.
And are you trying to keep up with that and adjust the type of content that you make? Because I did see recently that you started doing, some short form videos and that kind of thing.
I would say, like, for the business that I'm running now, I'm really only concerned about driving booked calls, and that's really like the primary concern. So, yeah, I started expanding out to other channels, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and so it's made sense just to repurpose all those same shorts onto Twitter. No sense in making it, not using them on that platform as well. I think too, there's a decent chance that Twitter is going to end up using some sort of. I think it's going to become more video centric. I think the world in general has become more video centric, so I could see it going that way. And I think Elon's tweeted a few things about the improvements that they've made there. So I could
Hmm.
see a world where Twitter becomes more
More video
video
heavy,
centered.
for
Yeah,
sure.
sadly.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be more multimedia in general, and I try to mix it up, like with my tweets. Like I have some that are text only. I have some that are maps or charts. I have some that are, quote tweets. And if you look at my timeline, um, there's barely ever three tweets in a row of the same type. Like it's always kind of a mix of formats. And I think that's probably one way to get in front of it, I guess, is just to mix it up and kind of see what works.
Hmm. Yeah, no, your profile looks good, man. I think it's better than mine. Good photos, everything looks good.
Well, my niche is just photogenic and easy, I feel, and
Yeah.
just so wide ranging. Whereas, it's harder to be. I don't know what these ghostwriters and stuff even tweet about. It's so hard because there's not too much there, like of substance. Sometimes I feel like, so they just
Yeah.
tweet about why hard work is important and stuff. Where I don't have to do that.
Yeah, you can just post photos of nice beaches and pretty girls.
Yeah, and we don't even, and we do it without the girls on purpose.
Why do you do it without the girls?
Because, we
What
don't
is
want
this
to.
nonsense?
You know this. You know this.
I do.
I'm very proud of what we've done without talking about dating almost at all.
Yeah, that's no, you're not like Jake. He's got a whole country after him some days, I swear, man.
Yeah, it'll never get old.
No, it will not.
Yeah, I mean I think talking about Twitter is actually kind of a fun thing for this episode because you've been doing it for longer than I have. It says you've had your current account since 2013, so you've gone and seen it through a lot of transitions, and you've probably seen a lot of people come and go. And
Yeah, I mean, geez, if I start really thinking back, the whole like manosphere and red pill stuff, like the amount of people that had manosphere dating blogs that are just vanished off the face of the earth now is just astonishing. And
really,
same thing with the money Twitter stuff. Like you have so many people who are just throwing whatever scam with drop shipping or selling fidget spinners or anything else like in 2017, 2018, they're all just vanished. And then of course some of
fidget
them actually
spinners. Was that a
grew
thing?
up
People
and
sold fidget spinners on Twitter?
dude, there was so many freaking courses about drop shipping and like go find a cool product off
Right.
AliExpress, like, fidget spinners or whatever other garbage from China. It just was never ending the bombardment of, oh, but get my course, get my course.
That's cool. Who are some of your all-time faves in terms of accounts on Twitter?
I don't even know, man. I'd have to really sit down and think about that. I don't have an answer for that. That's a hard one.
I noticed you were
G
engaging a lot with
Manifesto.
G Manifesto.
You don't remember that one?
Dude, I'm like very new to this, relatively speaking.
Oh man, he wrote just this hilarious blog. He was a poster on the Roosh forum, and he had just this brilliant Twitter account. It might even still be up. Let me see.
I found an account called G Manifesto Classics, and I think it's a bot that just
Yep,
retweets it.
that would be right. Yeah, that's what his yeah.
Did
These are
this
these are
guy
copied.
invent Village by the Sea?
Oh yeah. This is where it came from, dude.
Tell me this. Tell me about this.
Dude, just go read all those posts. Like he invented Village by the Sea, like machete, the whole machete thing. What
What's the machete
else?
thing?
I don't know. You're just always talking about having a machete, pounding like 10 drinks a night or more, um, all sorts of stuff. Man, he was in. Yeah, he was good.
Yeah, no, this seems interesting. I'm surprised I haven't seen this before. But people say shit like Village by the Sea all the time to
Dude,
me.
he memed it into existence.
He memed it into
Oh
existence.
yeah, no, that. It all started with him for sure.
Wow. And was it primarily a blog or primarily a Twitter?
I think it was primarily a Roosh account, a Roosh
Okay.
forum account, and then he had a blog and he had a Twitter, and I think over time he became more active on the social medias. But he never sold a thing. Like not once did I ever see him actually pitch anything. So he was always saying like, "I'm a wealthy guy. I live in my village by the sea. I go in the salt water and do ocean sunrise swims or sea swims. Like, oh, soaks in
Yep.
the sun.
Yep.
The whole like smoking cigarettes is good for you. Nicotine. Like this was all from him, man.
It's like the original crypto buried treasure.
Yep.
This is
Yeah.
good.
So I'd probably put him up as one of my favorites for sure.
And who would have influenced this guy? Where would have this guy gotten his swag from?
Probably the Roosh Forum, I'm guessing. That's the only place. That place back in the early mid 2000s was just absolutely popping.
And
And just so
who is
many
Michael
people.
Porfirio? Is that the name of
Yeah, that was the name he went by.
is the name G Manifesto
Michael
went
the
by?
G Manifesto, yeah.
Okay.
Well, like even like Wall Street Playboy's Bowtied Bull now, guy originally was on the Roosh Forum. Pretty sure. He was just a
Yeah.
poster on the Roosh Forum. Oh yeah. Grew into something way more. I remember a few people like, "Oh yeah, yeah, like the guy on the forum, that's Wall Street Playboy's blog." Like people that was like a little underground knowledge a few people knew about.
Yeah, I can believe it. I can see it. What about Atlas? I noticed you've been retweeting Atlas just a lot in the past day or two.
No, he's a cool guy, man. We've been just talking. I don't really know him too well, but we've kind of started talking recently. So yeah, he's a good guy.
He's been around a long time.
Yeah, he has. Same thing, like, all the old dating stuff, Manosphere, Red Pill. So he's known me for a while actually. But way back in the day it was like, geez, like bold and determined. You remember that?
It was kind of before my time. I didn't really
Before
know
your
about
time.
it, and
Okay.
it's I'm cemented in history of not knowing who that was when Dylan Madden brought it up on our podcast together.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, because he worked for him or something. I think you mentioned
Yeah.
it too on the first one, and I was like, I have no idea. Like
It's
Vic,
been
you, I
going
think you
around a
mentioned
long time,
like I
man.
think on the first episode you mentioned Victor Pride and
Yeah.
Bold and Determined, and so I'm kind of like putting together the pieces. Maybe some of the audience is too because maybe they're younger or whatever, and we're
Uh-huh.
putting together the pieces of like who's who's been around a while, who's new.
Oh, okay. Let me give you like a brief history then. So it's like the game Neil Strauss 2006, whatever that
Yep,
was,
yep, read
spawns
that.
off a bunch of people. Roosh comes around. He starts as like DC Bachelor, puts out his real name, Roosh, writes or starts the forum. Tons of people. That was like the first original, I think, anonymous hangout where people could go to get travel advice about where to go, where to pick up girls. It all goes to Twitter. The Manosphere starts. There's
So you
also
think
like
it
kind
went
of
to Twitter when the forum closed down?
no, no, no. They were up simultaneously. So I think
Okay, okay,
Twitter got traction maybe 2012. Like all the blogs on the Manosphere started going to Twitter, making accounts there. A lot of networking, a lot of people just would meet. Everyone is still very much anonymous at the time. Then around 2015, 2016, I would say it was like Christian McQueen got big where he started going from dating to then make money online. That kind of spawned
That's
off
the
Money
21
Twitter.
guy or the
Who?
21 conference guy or no?
No, that's Anthony Johnson. Christian McQueen was like, he was like the alpha playboy, I think is the book that he wrote.
Okay.
And then from there, that kind of spawned into Money Twitter. I know that McQueen at one point was hanging out with like Andrew Tate. And then Tate kind of started around the same time like Money Twitter really took off and he kind of really took over that whole niche. And then Money Twitter became like from drop shipping, selling Chinese stuff. Then it was like I got niche sites going, affiliate marketing, and I sold some materials around that for a while. Then it was everybody's going to start a Facebook ads agency. And then there was like sovereign lifestyle when COVID hit. Everyone's like going to get multiple passports, bank accounts, etc. And now it's like start your own social media agency on. Yeah, that's like the pitch on Money Twitter now. Oh, and be a closer, be a high ticket closer. That's the other hot one right now.
Yep, that one's pretty hot right now.
So
That came up
that's
quick. That one came up quick, I
yep.
feel.
So there's your 10-year recap.
That's the 10-year recap.
That's the 10-year, very simple recap of things, I think.
And I'm just like, where's RSD Julian and all this? Because that was,
They were just never on Twitter. They were
I
on
know.
I think, similar timeline, but on video
They're just in
mediums.
their own lane, right? Like none of those guys were on the forums, really.
No, they all just had their own blogs, and if it was such a different world, it was like there were people that did video and there were people who wrote, and there were very two specific lanes with that. And I think like RSD didn't really cross so much into that writing phase. They were just doing materials, in fields, those kind of.
There's something to be said about the written word, though. I mean, it stands the test of time.
Yeah, we'll see though. Maybe not in a few years. People don't read anymore.
Yeah, I
They
guess.
just want to watch.
What about Mark Zolo? Do you remember him? Was he big for you?
Oh yeah, I met him in Ukraine
Did
a
you?
few years ago. Yeah, yeah, he's a cool guy.
Yeah, I met him in Malta a couple months ago.
Okay, yeah, he did it right. He's got a good setup there, so he did it right.
Mm-hmm.
Does he still run
Fuck.
his site even?
It's like back and forth in terms of being up, not being up. He was down to
Okay.
have it up, but like someone kept hacking him or something.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's on now.
Yeah,
Yeah, man, it's been a wild ride, so to speak. I've seen a lot of it, and a lot of people come and go. That's for sure.
a lot of
A lot
people
more
come
people
and
who have
go.
come and gone than who have stayed.
Mm-hmm. Hey guys, quick interruption to tell you about Bitrefill. Bitrefill is the best way to convert your crypto into gift card balances. These are gift cards that you can spend at hotels.com, Airbnb, Nike, and many more. You may remember Joel Valenzuela, previous podcast guest. He's been living on crypto exclusively since 2015, and he's a big consumer of Bitrefill. And so I asked Joel, I said, what do you like most about Bitrefill? He said that he likes the instant delivery, the precise amount so that you don't have to juggle a lot of gift cards, and he loves the global selection. Nobody else has this much selection of gift cards, over 10,000 gift card options across hundreds of countries. Go to bitrefill.com to sign up, and you can also use the code MyLatinLife for 10% back off your first purchase. Go to bitrefill.com for more information. I always remember that from Gary Vee. Is he always said just use your real name, and then you can kind of be whoever you want to be and change your brand. But um, I'm not sure. I'm not sure it's if that really like it is hard because even when you have a your name is your brand, a personality brand, you still have to be kind of known for a thing and be the real estate guy or be the XYZ guy. And it is kind of hard to move on to something else.
It kind of just depends though. Like everything in my case has kind of spawned off of everything I've ever done. So everything now is in Eastern Europe with my companies where we source Eastern European talent. And, originally I was a guy who wrote about dating in Eastern Europe. So it always kind of spawned off of what I've done before in my case. So I think
Hmm.
I tend, there's always going to be a little bit of pain with rebranding, but like obviously with you and your business, My Latin Life, you can't really just rebrand that. But if you had your name and your face out there and you're like, I'm so and so, the founder of My Latin Life, then yeah, you could pivot to something else for sure. but you'll lose people, right? You'll have people who are like, "Oh, I'm just not that interested in that." And then there's going to be really true fans who are like, "Oh, I'm going to keep following this because of this guy. I just like his stuff."
Do you have like I imagine at this point you have a bit of like a zombie follower base, like at least some proportion of it. This is kind of what I was wanted to ask you about. Like, do you try to cleanse it? Like, I know some people even kind of do like unfollowings or something like that, and just sort of cleanse their or block people or remove people from their email list if they're inactive. Like, do you do things like that, or you just kind of like let it hang?
I occasionally purge my email list if they haven't opened an email in the last, 90 days or so. Then I'll just send them an email to that segment and say, "Hey, you still want these emails? If yes, click. If not, you're getting deleted in a week," something like that. But I don't even really email the list much anymore, man. It's like a once every couple of months, very sporadic thing. So I need to get back
Hmm.
on that at some point.
Very cool. Very cool. Another thing I wanted to make sure to ask you, I think what's sick about having an olive oil company or anything like that, maybe be like a coffee or something, is you just have like a product, that you can just bring and give to your cousins or whatever, like wherever you go, right? And it's just such a good gift when you meet people. You're like, here, and you tell them the story, like, here's the olive oil from my farm. We did it, and it's just like such a sick thing.
Yeah, I actually send bottles to a lot of our clients at HireUA, and they don't even know I have this company. And it shows up, my assistant will say, like, "What's your address? We want to send you a gift." And then it shows up with a little letter. So like, "Oh, this is from Kyle. It's, a thank you from my other company based out of Eastern Europe." And then they always message me like, "What the hell is this?" Like, because not, I would say that a lot of our clients don't even know me through Twitter. Like, they don't know that at all. So
Mm.
they're like, "What on earth is this?" Like,
It's pretty cool. I mean, I bet
but
the
yeah,
family back in California thinks it's cool because, I mean, it's just cool. It's just something. It's cool to do something physical like that and have a product. Like
it is.
I always wanted to maybe buy into like a Paraguay yerba mate farm or a Mexican coffee farm or something, just to have like a physical product that I can kind of almost, even if it didn't make money, it'd be worth it just for the rep. You know what I mean? Just like
I think
just
that
a
that's
sick
the case.
gift.
It's a hard business. Like, physical products are tough, and like luxury goods are definitely tough. But I've got a couple bottles of it sitting right here. Like when I film my videos or I'm on sales calls with clients, like they're right here in the background. So it's cool to just have them sitting here on the desk for sure.
Yeah. Like Lawrence King has a coffee company. I think it's called,
Raging
damn, what,
Bull,
Raging Bull? Is it Raging
something
Bull?
like that. Yeah,
Robert De Niro. Yeah, and it's cool. I mean, I'm sure it makes money. He has a pretty streamlined as like a almost like a drop shipping thing. I think I don't know. He's kind of quiet about it, but he still has a coffee company. And then wherever you go, you're like, yeah, here's my coffee. This is my branding. Here's the story. Blah blah blah. And I don't know. It's just like a cool thing. So that's something that's, I guess, for him it was just on his bucket list, and he went out and did it. And yeah, both of you guys kind of inspire me for sure.
cool. Yeah, no, it's tough though, man. That's not like a business I can recommend, like building your own product from the ground up. That is not like, if someone asked me like, should I do this? I'll be like, absolutely not. Don't do it. Like, do anything but that.
Yeah, I always thought like just getting in the food business in general would be pretty cool. I'm not sure if you have any interests of doing other um, agricultural products or get going further into the food business.
I came pretty close to opening a pizza by the slice shop in Ukraine. I was like scouting locations. So yeah, I've always had an interest in that. And I think one day I still would like to open a restaurant, but it's a pain. That's for sure. It's just a giant pain no matter what way you spin it.
Well, you seem to have the skill set of being able to manage employees, which I think is the big differentiator between people who kind of really get somewhere and people that don't.
I think it's all about people at past a certain point. Like, once you get past like being a solopreneur or a freelancer, it's all about the people and learning what makes them click and how to work with them and how to ultimately empower them to actually do the work you need them to do. I think with food though, my problem is going to be I hate governments and I hate paperwork and I hate bureaucracy. And there is no way around health inspections, fire and safety
Mm.
inspections, all of that just nonsense. It would just drive me off the wall.
Does the olive oil expire after a certain time? How long does it last?
It'll stay good for usually about a year, I'd say.
A year?
About a year. I think if you ask my business partner, he would be able to tell you. He's probably tested it like as long as he can and just tried it every day and made sure it was good. But I would say like our bottles, say for example, about a year and a half. Like
Hmm.
harvested, I'm looking at one right now. Harvested November 2022, best by April 2024. So that's about a year and a half.
Oh man. I didn't know this till recently, but at least Mexicans just have no idea what olive oil is.
What do they use there?
Just like cooking oil, like vegetable oil, I
Vegetable
guess.
oil. Yeah.
Yeah, because they don't really use coconut oil either, or anything fancy.
I think probably though their vegetable oil is a lot better than what you would get in the United States, like
Maybe,
canola and some of that stuff. Like
maybe.
I would say out in Ukraine they had like sunflower oil, and I would say I don't think it was near as bad as a lot of the stuff you'd buy in the West.
No, I like it. I like the Mediterranean lifestyle. I was just out there for a couple of months, right? I went to Sicily and Malta, and eating. I like dates. I like figs. I like olive oil and olives, obviously.
Hmm.
And The Mexican person traveling with me had just never tried any of these things. It's
Yeah.
pretty. It's good. Ah, man, I do want to do a product company. I think that's like the most
Don't
awesome
do
thing in
it.
the world. Yeah, I don't know.
If you're gonna do it, just try to find a good person who's already
Doing it.
making the product. Like, in our
Yeah.
case, it was all figured out. The olive oil comes from the farm in Croatia, and it's like, it was shipped over in a tub, and we bottled the first 1,000 bottles by hand and had to source the bottles, the corks, the seals, the labels, like just to keep it simple. Buy your coffee beans from someone and find someone to make a nice package and ship them together and have someone put it in the package. Way easier than sourcing it from the ground up.
Yeah, I can imagine the European Union's not the easiest to deal with and getting that certified to export and everything.
It's a giant pain. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. Like, no, literally, I would say, like, don't make a product like this. It sucks. Don't do it. Unless you
Yeah.
are already filthy rich and it's a passion product,
I mean, at
then
least
do
it
it.
lasts a year. It's not like super fast spoiling. It's good. I had this idea. This is totally random. I'm gonna get ripped off if I say this, but there's something called tajin in Mexico. Tajin. Do you know what this
Hmm.
is? It's
I
like
don't. How do you
it's
spell it?
like it's like Tahin. It's like chili salt, and you can put it on top of fruit, on top of watermelon, mango, whatever. And it just makes fruit taste crazy. But there's only like the one industrial tahin, and I wanted to create like an artisanal tahin.
That's a good
Um,
idea, dude. Yeah, I know
yeah,
what this is. I've had it before. I
yeah.
know what it is.
I think it's
Yeah,
big in California.
it is.
Uh,
Yeah.
it's like a Shark Tank idea, anyway.
That's a good idea. I would rip that off
Yeah,
because it's simple. It's only got like probably maybe 5 ingredients, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just salt and dried pepper.
Artisan tahine. That's a good idea, man.
Yeah, it's not bad,
You can put the word artisan in front of anything.
eh? Exactly, exactly. And I feel like on Shark Tank, like an insane number of the pitches would be food products. I think just because it does better on TV because it's more physical and fun and people can get their head around it. So there's all these
Mhm.
like crazy cereals and stuff.
I think though, from what I've heard, they listen to like hundreds of pitches and then only like 5 of them make the cut for the actual film,
Yeah,
right? So it's like I don't think they actually show probably 80-90% of the actual pitches.
yeah. No, that's definitely true. I
Yeah.
was like the biggest fan for a while back in the day when it was like Damon John and the early episodes.
Yeah,
Uh,
they've been
I
going
loved
for a
it.
long time now. A long time. Like probably season 15 maybe? I don't know.
Random question as we're kind of closing up. So do you have a car now?
No.
No car?
No car. Nope.
Baby, no car.
No, dude, I mean, it's like it's Europe. There's 0 point. Truly, it's like I can either get on the tram and take the tram like 12 minutes to go to the gym. I can get on a bike and go in 7 minutes, or I could get a car if I had a car out of the garage and sit in 20 minutes of traffic. Like, it's not even up for debate. Maybe at some point, like, there's some things I wish I had a car. Like, maybe I could just go to the lake or something and take the family, take the dog. It'd be a little bit easier. But day to day life, I can't really imagine enjoying it very much, to be honest.
That's good. That's encouraging. That's what I want out of my European experiences. To be able to have a baby and a dog and still not need a car.
It's there's very little point. Like, I've thought about it. I've even looked, and I'm like, what am I gonna buy a car for? I can drive it like once every 2 weeks, and it just sits in the garage the rest of the time. Like, it doesn't even make any sense. If I really need it, I'll just rent one.
Good. This is awesome. You're warming my heart. I'm slightly anti-car.
Ask me if I have another kid, though. I might change my mind after that. But it's it's difficult sometimes, but people just manage, man. You just load the kid up in the stroller and you just carry her onto public transit. That's all it is. It's not hard. It's just as easy as loading her into a car seat.
Good. Or
Yeah,
have you become a bit of a hockey fan at all, or ice skating? Because
I have not.
no,
Nope. Europe hasn't done that to me, but I like soccer, football more than I ever did in the US. So that's maybe one sport I've kind of gotten into a little bit out here, or at least I understand it now.
good, good. Well, I'm happy for you. No car. Businesses are booming. Family
Yeah.
safe. Name brand change. This is almost like the first year of your next. I don't know if you think about things like this, but your next 5 or 10 year super cycle.
Maybe. I mean, I would say, having a kid obviously changes a lot of things, man. It changes the way you think about everything in life. And of course, everyone says, like, oh, I'm not going to be like that. But it does. It does. It changes you. It changes your mindset, your outlook on things. So, yeah, I like to think the same. I just turned, 30 a couple years ago, and now I have a kid and, got the new name brand and a whole different company. So it's the start of a new journey, so to speak.
Well, very exciting. Definitely don't stop tweeting and keeping us updated on what you're doing.
For sure. Perfect. Sounds good, man. I appreciate you having me on. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. My guest today was Kyle Mao. This has been another episode of the My Latin Life podcast. Thanks, everyone, for listening.